guys, Avali May with ESPN Esports, and I am here with the legendary caster Papa Smithy, who just got finished casting IG, taking the entire World Championship 3-0. We're in the Moonhawk Stadium in Incheon, Korea. How big of a moment was this for you? This was your first final, and you're seeing these two huge teams, upsets all around. What was it like?
That's definitely a multi-layered question. I mean, for the bigger story, which of course is China finally winning Worlds, the LPL finally winning, it's kind of plays into my career because I started casting the Oceanic scene, but from there, the Chinese scene pre-LPL, before there was this level of glitz and glamour. So to see them finally pick up a title, even though it's not the LCK that I usually rep, it's still a really big moment for them, and it being IG is the surreal part, given they've never won domestically. But more personally, definitely kind of a career highlight for me. May not have been the 3-2 series everyone dreams for their first World Final, but just to be given the opportunity to do the World Final is obviously a big honor. Only 2 color casters and 1 play-by-play can do it. So it was definitely an awesome trip. Maybe too short, but you don't get everything you want every time.
I mean, you, Flowers, and Kobe have formed like this amazing trio that I think we even saw in quarterfinals, right, with KT. What's this trio like? Why does everyone love them so much, and why do you love working with them?
Definitely a bundle of energy. As I've gotten more and more into my career, I've gotten better at matching energy, and definitely a run for your money when Flowers is like flipping tables and Kobe is always wearing his emotions on his sleeve. It's a really high energy cast, and in a Worlds like this where it was more killer minute stuff rather than kind of the thinkers that some of the previous tournaments evolved into, I think it just fit really well. So we got a couple of opportunities to shine. We got that video that I'm sure will live forever of us responding to the base race in that KT IG series. So to get the nod and to work with people who I'm really close with is a huge highlight.
I mean, there have been so many amazing highlight moments. We had that little clip it from you guys going off during the base race. We had the Japanese casters crying in the middle of play-ins. What moment of Worlds really stood out to you?
That's a hard question because, as you say, it's been so many little things coming together. I think the moment, and it's much less of a highlight play, but a realization is kind of how everything flowed on from Yamato's famous statement about play your own style to the meta really opening up aggression. Because we've had so many Worlds defined by a mistake costing you a match or a world championship or whatever it was, into a Worlds that rewarded proactive play. And I think that's been really fun to watch. It means games end fast, but they're explosive. They're still defined by outplays rather than just pure one single mistake in a macro setup. And while I'm not sure I want Worlds to be like this every year, for it to be kind of a breath of fresh air was really fun to track, and it made the games very easy on the eye.
You don't want Worlds to be like this every year, because I thought this was the most fun Worlds that we've ever had just because of all the pure upsets and surprises.
And the Korean teams went out in quarters, so I have some notes for the script writers. I think maybe they can work on a couple of things there. Maybe KT getting a different side of the bracket. Got to say, that right side of the bracket did end up being that murderer's row with RNG going. I'm sure RNG are kind of kicking themselves. They didn't get to finish the golden year and win everything. IG evolving and evolving around the meta, and then KT just, being a little bit slow to show up. Showing up in Game 3 of a best-of-5, not the best way to go.
So what do you think happened with the Korean teams this year? Because we've been picking everyone's brains. People thought, oh, they got too relaxed, or oh, this or that. What do you think?
It's definitely a combination of a lot of things. I don't think it's as much resting on laurels, but there's always going to be a sign of that, because I think Korea only knows winning. If you think about it, it's the first time since the server existed they didn't make the final, right? So it is a huge shock that they haven't won, and I hope it's a positive shock to the system because they were too risk-averse. I think very quickly you could see that this was a world where risks would be rewarded, and that going for medium and high risk rather than just low-risk, medium-reward plays would be the way to go, and Korea didn't catch on to that fast enough. The only team that played fast is KT, and again, one day doesn't go their way, and then the entire hopes of the nation is kind of gone. So I hope that it leads to a retooling, and it could be a systematic change. It could be a huge change in terms of rosters, because a lot of free agents, a lot of changes, a lot of people now who don't have a world championship who are now thinking, how do I stack my roster to get one? So I just hope there's a real kind of jolt into the system for the LCK, and they can understand that, legends can fall, dynasties do end, and this end of one chapter, but hopefully a new chapter of positivity does come from it after all.
Just to pick your brain really quick, if you were put in the coaching position of, let's say, KT, or let's just say any Korean team, because I don't want to ask you too picky on rosters, but what do you think is the first thing that would need to be addressed?
I mean, with KT in particular, they have so much talent that you wonder really what way you can go. I think the injection of the youth in the mid lane with Yukao worked, so who knows how many of these players who came together to win Worlds will stick around. I don't really have any insight on rosters for that, but I hope, to me honestly, it needs to be a step back and a look at coaching, because again, Korean coaching, by and large, on every squad is risk has to be low, and if the reward is small, it doesn't matter because it's all building towards the crescendo, which is exploding the Nexus in as painless a way as possible. And I think that is something that needs to change. And whether that means new blood or new assistant coaches or new head coaches, I can't know. But a re-examination from the ground up rather than just one roster change and everything falls into place. Because this was not just the talent wasn't in the right places. This was very much building upon layers that needed to be addressed on the way up.
And I want to ask you about personally what your plans are, because we've heard about a lot of casters, Deficio's taking a step back, Frosk coming into EU. I'm very excited for that, but what about you? What are your plans for the future?
Honestly, right now, like as of today, this is my last casting gig for the year as things stand. So after the 107 matches, 107 match days a season that I've been doing, I'm definitely going to rest the voice for a bit. It's weary after a very long year, but definitely not complaining during a world final. And then reassess. I mean, this is the first year that I haven't been rolling over into another job, because obviously OGN and SpoTV no longer doing LCK, and definitely Korean League of Legends is my first love and definitely the first thing I'll think of, but there's always opportunities out there and I'm definitely listening to them, and it's just a case of working out what's next for me, because when I first came into casting, I just wanted to cast for OGN. I just wanted to cast LCK, I wanted to cast Champions at the time, and I did that, and doing my first final there was a big move. I didn't ever dream of coming to a stage this big and being able to do a world final. I know I've done that as well, so it definitely feels like a lot of the most clear goals have been met, and it's just a case of what next, because I'm not a big person to rest on laurels. I do want to continue to develop, get better as a caster, get better as a professional and a human being. So while that's not clear right now I'm thinking more about the after party and things like that. Who's to say that in a couple of weeks, things become a bit clearer?
All right, well, I also want to head to that after party, so really quick before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans, your followers who have been watching you throughout your entire casting career, watching your voice go up and down through all those games, that you'd like to say anything to?
I mean, the simple one-word answer is thank you, obviously, because they've been so supportive to me, and the fans have really outpoured with emotion. Like, I get a lot of DMs and a lot of tweets and a lot of Reddit threads and a lot of positivity that it's hard to process, it's hard to process just how much positivity is out there. I kind of evolved into someone that had to look for the negative comments, to look for some more kind of, I guess, counterbalancing to it, because the moment that everyone's saying you're fantastic, you don't want it to go to your head. You want to keep improving. So a big shout out to everyone who said all those kind words. And also, this day wouldn't have come without all those fans speaking up and being positive. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I talked to Riot and said, would it ever be realistic for a freelance caster to do a world final? And they didn't have an answer to that question. This is the first time. Joe Miller did it in 2014 in kind of a different way. Monty never got to cast a world final. So being chosen to cast this world final is definitely everything coming together. Hard work, fan sentiment. So to everyone out there, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for watching, and I hope you join me on whatever that next site is. And who's to say I won't be on LCK1 next year and just doing it all again?
Well, we're all super excited to see it. So, Papa, thank you so much for your time. And that's it for us here. Thanks for watching. I'm Avali May with ESPN Esports.